Hey dear, I hope you like salads, because today we've got some croutons.
Oh, what's your favorite kind of salad?
Hang on. No, not croutons. Krotons.
No!
What happens in the crotons, dear?
Okay, well, can we at least talk about what your favorite kind of salad is?
Caesar. Chicken Caesar.
That's fair. I really like a pear and cranberry.
Oh no, I like
salad.
my dad's partner makes a really really nice like basic, leafy green. It's like a a leafy green pear salad, like with slices of pear and like bits of cheese and pine nuts.
Yeah,
so nice.
yeah, that's my exact salad. But like we tend, at least here when you order it, they tend to put like cranberries in it, like dried cranberries. It is so fucking good.
Cranberries would be too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, crotons. What happens?
So it is the intro, and then there's a man reaching his hand into a trash can, but it's actually a hole, and he pulls out a book, and he's wearing leather, but he's also teaching an elementary school, maybe? He calls the elementary... It's weird. He's selecting people, and they're all named gone, and one man is angry that a girl was chosen, and they're all becoming Kroton companions, but the man obviously is in love with her, and they're also given some lovely robes with amazing shoulder pads. Mm-hmm. And the angry man says it's the law, and the lady goes, we have to obey, and they're like, no, and then the TARDIS swooshes in somewhere. And the doctor thinks it's a lovely place, and Jamie's like, I smell eggs. And the doctor brings out an umbrella because of the sun, but it's apparently not poisonous. And the doctor finds a rock of mica, and they see some houses made of weird shapes, and Jamie runs off. Well, Jamie finds a weird door with a ramp to it, and there's a weird machine, actually, and then this one guy walks out of it, and he's, like, having trouble, and then some poles come out of the wall to smoke them? Really? There's no real other way to say it. They blow smoke at them, and he falls over and dies, and disappears. And apparently no one defies the Krotons, and even though Loverboy does anyway, and the doctor walks in going, wait, we're friends? And then as soon as he says that, there's a spear pointed at them. They're like, where are you from? And the doctor wants to talk about their dead friend. Everyone is freaking out. Everyone's at spear point, and he lets her go, and they put a necklace on her, and on the previous guy that died. And the doctor's like, they're not gonna sacrifice her, they're too civilized. And then she gets sent into the door to be sacrificed. Jamie fucking fights a dude, though.
That's true, he does fight a dude.
He does, and he wins.
Exactly, Jamie's good.
Yeah. The one time he was like, I'll fight you, the dude was like, yeah, sure. So, Leather Daddy heads back and asks what the fuck they're on about. And he says, we're from another planet. And everyone's like, haha, sure you are. And they're like, the Krotons, they live in the machine, and that's where they go to be with them. And the doctor wants to go into the door and says, I saw a man killed. And they're like, wait, you've been in the wasteland? You're contaminated with poison. But apparently not. And the doctor heads back outside into the waste to try to save her. And her lover also goes with them, and they shove rocks in the tube holes, and she is seen coming out the door.
Mind if I shove some rocks in your tube hole?
You want to slide some mica up in there? She is heading out the door now and, like, wobbling around like she's drunk. But then the doctor grabs her and uses his umbrella to save them. But the umbrella gets destroyed.
Oh no! His favorite umbrella, he says.
Yeah, it is. It's supposedly his favorite. Leather Daddy is realizing that everyone he sent in there is dead. Because when they find her, she's catatonic, unresponsive, so on and so forth. She's being hypnotized by the doctor, and he's like, oh man, everybody I sent in there is dead. Oh. Banda is apparently super smart and competition for Zoe. And some silver... Okay. And then they give some history. Silvermen came from the sky, and then they were attacked by the Gons. And so the Silvermen rained poison down on the wasteland. And that's the history.
that's a lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of history. Okay.
Yeah. But we see a man with a flashlight going around, pushing some computer buttons, and then he's kidnapped by the people that I called the lads. He's a custodian, apparently, and no one has seen the Krotons for thousands of years. But they give more orders through messages and sometimes a voice. But he can't summon them, and he needs to obey their commands. So everyone's like, "Fuck it, let's just smash all the learning machines, haha." And after the war, the Krotons thought that they had peace, and they taught them how to use the learning machines. And it's the God's law to listen to the Krotons, even though the law wasn't from the Krotons. It was like a weird circle of self-slavery. And then they want him to tell the truth to everyone, but he's like, no, it'll start a war. And a man tells Loverboy's dad that they're fucking up the machines, so everyone runs out into the wasteland to stop them. And then we see weird machine whirring and a TV going fizzle, and then X. And then there's a selfie stick that comes over, and it also has an X on it. And it's really weird. And a voice comes over the intercom saying, "Don't smash, leave." And everyone's like, that's just a recording. And they keep trying before the doctor, I'm so sorry, and crew run in. And he does a smart, and the Krotons are like, who is that? And the big old tentacle light comes out and beeps at them looking around, because it's a glory hole. And back at the selfie stick, now they're looking at a picture of the doctor's face, and then it turns around, and it has the doctor's face on it. And then the penis glory hole light keeps wiggling at the doctor, and then that was the episode.
Yep.
Yep. It's exactly what happened.
So, there's a lot in this story. There's a lot.
Yes.
First of all, we'll go on... So, the director for this story, David Maloney, said this story was an absolute disaster and felt it was completely his fault. Fraser Hines didn't like it at all, called it horrible. Script editor Terrence Dix felt that the story worked, but the monster was... the monsters ended up kind of feeling useless and not threatening at all. Which, as we'll get into the episode, he's completely correct. Thankfully, this is a very short episode, because if it was long, it would have been awful. Other than that, you know the scientist Beta?
Yep.
Do you remember a man by the name of James Sterling in The Reign of Terror? The English spy?
Jim Sterling? Yes.
Yeah, they're played by the same actor.
Oh.
And I realized that the man who played Axis, who was the one of the students with the big sideburns, the one that wasn't Beta, he was not only a clockwork soldier in The Mind Robber, but also he played the Minotaur itself in The Mind Robber. So yeah, we're starting to get a lot of actors starting to come back in some form or another. But yeah, what happens in the second episode, dear?
Well, the doctor's crying about the glory hole, and he then hides his face away from it, which stops it. It's doing pattern recognition, and his pattern is his face. Yeah, I was gonna say that's supposed to be shocking. Wow. Jeez, God. There's a scanner somewhere in the wall, maybe, though, so maybe they can get in touch with them. And then a lad tries to kill the light glory hole and gets vaporized. And then Selfie Stick stops thinking about the doctor hashtag on its Instagram and leaves. And it thinks that it killed him because it's dumb. And then a lad throws a hammer at the wall, and the boy's like, "Go away, we killed your leader." And then they do.
Kill the leader.
Kill the leader.
Van is awake again, and the doctor... Well, I say awake. Her eyes are open. The doctor puts a light up to her shit, and her face, and apparently the light doesn't work on electricity, it works on solar energy, and there's weirdly huge gaps in the knowledge of the people here. And they only know what the Krotons teach them. The doctor and Zoe want to look around, and Jamie's given some pills to take care of Vanna when she wakes up, but Leather Daddy wants to go, and so he does. And then leader Leather Daddy fucking brings his army with him, weirdly, and then the doctor and him talk about the underhall where there's nothing in there. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. He climbs into the hole, followed by Leather Daddy, and then Zoe looks around, sits at the learning machine, and learns some things. And Selfie Stick is watching her and goes, oh, that's nice. And down in the underhall, there's some machine foundation, apparently. But that's about it. And then the doctor's upset with Zoe, because apparently she's now brainwashed and think that the Krotons like her. And the dial-on machine apparently shows that Zoe is fucking brilliant. The doctor's like, yeah, I know. And Vanna wakes up, apparently, talking about a burning ball and PTSD shit, and then her lover comes in and calms her down. And there are many lights burning her mind and shit. And then Jamie's like, hey, but what about the Kroton? And she's like, ah! And then they... oh no, my salad! Oh, it's all crunchy now! Oh, fuck. Yeah, so there's that. And then they give them the pill, they give her the pills, and she's, like, good to go.
Pills here.
And apparently it's a root structure underneath the building? It means the whole machine was like a living thing, and there's a gong, and then there's suddenly a message from the Krotons, and they've chosen Zoe as a companion. Woohoo! The leader's like, no, if you go, I'm going. So he takes the test, and he fucks it up a whole bunch, and the meter isn't going up at all, but the selfie stick has a little meter on their side, and it is going up over there. But then he does answer all the stuff, and the gong goes off, and they're like, the doctor too. And Leather Daddy says goodbye, we'll remember you. And they leave. And Jamie runs up and watches them leave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
Jamie, why didn't Jamie try and join them?
He's kind of dumb.
Oh, he is, that's right.
Yeah. So, the doctor and Zoe head into Selfie Stick Room and notice it's a spaceship with no crew. They're told to sit down in chairs, and Zoe is told to hold onto a chain, because something, I didn't pay attention. A force field is placed on them, and the Robo-Pope does some shit, and Jamie attempts to break into the room in annoyance, while Robo-Pope is filling up with something, and they're in pain while the chain tries to break, and there's some water bubbling, and Zoe and the doctor are in pain, and they're transferring mental power to transfer to pure energy or something, and a wall near them is completely removed, and the whooshing, and the liquefying shit, and it's a lot, and
You okay?
no. This is a time of weird notes. It's fine.
Okay.
And so the doctor takes a sample and he's like, oh, it's full of crystals. Maybe it makes life. There's also astronaut air tubes. That's weird. But then a robo-hand climbs out of the tank and they run away! And then it's a whole fucking robot with the air tube connected. And
Ooh.
Jamie gets a crowbar and tries to get the door open, and the doctor and Zoe try to fucking escape into the exit shaft. And there's a door, but it's jammed. But then they use the Micah to open the door, and they get away.
They
Because
use Mika?
Yes. But not in the Destiel sort of way.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
What?
I meant the singer.
I meant Misha, but sure.
I meant Mika as in, like, big girls, beautiful,
They get away because the Krotons need them alive and will command the Gods to capture them, so they decide to take Jamie instead so they can use his brain to do what they need, and Jamie runs in, and they pinch him really, really hard, and he's like, no, don't do that, and he falls over, and they test his mind, and the Robo-Pope finds out that Jamie's actually an idiot. So if they keep going, the power will kill him, and he's dead. And that's the episode.
Grace Kelly. That was the song I was thinking of, Grace Kelly. I could be like Grace Kelly.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so we're going to cut right to the chase. The Krotons supposedly, this is take this with a grain of salt. The monsters are apparently the result of a colossal pun, based on the idea of the organic soup on which life supposedly originated. The creatures inside the spaceship have a soup of their own, and of which they eventually emerge, floating on the surface, like Krotons.
Okay, so that's it for us ever watching Doctor Who again.
If you think that's the bad Doctor Who puns, you ain't got fucking nothing yet.
I hate this.
So, how would you feel if I told you that the Krotons were originally written with the intent of replacing the Daleks as the principal nemesis? So, initially, what was going on at the time, Terry Nation asked the BBC to stop using them in stories, because he was trying to pitch his own Dalek series to a US TV network. Ultimately, that fell through, so he came back with the Daleks. But, yeah, they were like, well, we'll make our own Daleks then. And they made the Krotons. Quote, the Krotons didn't have the same impact that the Daleks had, and they faded into obscurity, with the Nation eventually allowing the Daleks to return.
You don't say.
Yeah. Needless to say, the Krotons are terrible. They're ineffective. They're not scary, and
easily fightable.
Easily fightable, and they're not as strong as... We'll get into it after the next episode, what they're kind of going for with, like, the metaphor of them. But it's not as strong as metaphor as the Daleks are Nazis. Like, Daleks, Nazis, fascism, got it. This, it's like, I see what you're going for, but, like, it's not, like, not good, and not really compelling, and kids don't understand it because they don't understand that concept, really.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to really paint that concept as evil, whereas, like, Nazis, you can put a face to Nazis. You can't put a face to what they go for with the Krotons. We'll get to it, because I'm not getting into it now, because if I get into it now, we'll need to explain it now. I will say that this book that I have, it starts off... Remember how a few times ago there's, like, some pretty funny explanations of, like, what the episode actually is, and, like, ha ha ha, this is pretty funny. So this one starts off with, which episode is this? Well, this is the one where students drop acid and shake society to its foundations. Nope, really, that's the plot.
Yeah.
And, so, there was a popular myth that, the Krotons' design, which kind of strengthens the idea that the Krotons are just not good villains at all, not good monsters. It was a popular myth held for a long time that, the Krotons were actually kind of a stolen design from a designer Doctor Who monster competition for Blue Peter, which I've explained what Blue Peter is before, but it's like a variety show for kids sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like a morning show but for kids.
Yeah.
Like a The View but for kids type shit. Yeah, they had a design your own Doctor Who competition, and like it basically was a myth for a long time that like they basically just took a design from that was made from egg boxes. Which, yeah, like, it's not true at all, but, like, considering how bad the Krotons are, it's, like, it's no wonder that myth persisted for so long, because, like, I mean, look at the fucking design, it looks terrible.
They look like meat hammers.
They don't look menacing at all.
No.
Like, they're wearing dresses, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Like, there's every shot that they're in the episode is shot from waist up. Because if you look at the full body of them, it's like, okay, they've got this metal body with, like, arms with tubes sticking out that's kind of weird. And then below the waist, it's just, like, a sheet.
Yep.
So you don't see the
operator's feet. A sheet that's not even, like, hard, that's not even, like, easy to move in.
No, it's literally just like a bed sheet. Just, like, draped down. It looks like they're wearing just a long dress. It's like, what? Why did you think this was good?
Yeah, no.
Anyway, what happens in the next episode, dear?
So you know how you said Jamie's dead?
Oh yeah, James dead, that's right.
Yeah, he's actually dead.
Actually, fun fact, he was meant to initially leave in this episode, but he decided not to.
Oh, I'm gonna be sad soon. They shut off the machine, actually. He's fine. He's of value of info, as info for the Doctor. And back in Zoe and the Doctor, they're headed to the TARDIS to test the crystals. And they ask Jamie a bunch of questions, and he's like, no, don't pinch me! And then they see the TARDIS, and Jamie is forced to tell the truth, and he's like, oh, they're leaving? They wouldn't leave without me. And then the lads head up to their local alchemist, science men, and ask about things. And they aren't apparently more advanced than the Krotons, so if they aren't more advanced, they can't win because all they have is spears and things. And they're like, no, we had spears back then, now we have axes. And it's like, uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure, buddy.
The Doctor told him apparently that there's a ton of stuff that they don't know, and he's like, I'm very upset by this. And they're like, well, you shouldn't like it. The Doctor went to submit himself anyway, and if Science Beta Man has more time, he could make some weapons, but then the lad leader basically goes, no, I want to do it now! But also, don't obey Leather Daddy, obey me instead. And the Diamond Bros take up a weapon thing and go to get the Doctor and walk out with a tiny little dress. And they ask Jamie more questions that he doesn't know the answer to, and they're like, you're useless. Back outside outside Kroton, he's walking
Planet
around.
Kroton.
Yes, Planet Kroton.
That's you know what? That's where Superman comes from.
Planet Ranch. It's fine.
Planet Kroton, get it?
Mm-hmm.
Superman, Kroton, because Krypton, Superman. Shut up, I'm funny.
Hilarious. And Vanna is relaxing with Loverboy, by the way, and then Leather Daddy comes up and basically explains what happened, and also Jamie might die again.
Woo! I mean, oh.
Well. And Loverboy mentions Elec, which is the lad's leader, is taking authority over everything, and how there's war coming. And I hated a lot of things happening in a very short period of time.
And you hate everything, do you?
Listen, I literally in my notes just wrote, I hate. That's it.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Apparently everyone wants the war, even though they have nothing, but Leader has a better plan to attack while not attacking.
Yep.
Jamie on the side is asking many questions about things and stuff, and then decides to grab the other weapon thing. And back at Science, they're still arguing a bunch about weapons aren't good enough. And then back at Jamie, apparently the Krotons can't die unless they exhaust or something, which means they can be reanimated. And then back at outside, Soup Ladle, we see rocks, and more rocks. And then back at the TARDIS, there was a lot. There's the Doctor and Zoe. They're done looking at the crystals, and then they look around for sulfur. And then back at Jamie, he's watching them collect rocks. And then back at the Doctor, they're collecting rocks. And then the Crystal Man walks up to them, and they're like, they stop talking, and they're like, okay, I guess we have to return now. And then Jamie has the other Crystal Man's gun and uses it on the Diamond Boy, even though it doesn't seem to do anything, and he's backed up against a wall and choked out. And while the other Diamond is busy, the first lad is unable to see or move for some reason. The light is too much for him. And they're gonna try to destroy the TARDIS, and then the TARDIS disappears, so it's gone. And Jamie's okay, but he's pretending to be dead, and so the other Diamond heads back. But then, amazingly, the TARDIS swoops back, having piloted itself, and there's something called the HADS, which I was told to remember, but I'm not going to remember, so, dear listener, I hope you remember.
Do you know what it stands
for?
for?
No, don't care.
The Hostile Action Displacement System.
And what does it do, Gamb?
It essentially, whenever the outer shell of the TARDIS comes under attack, it immediately dematerializes and then rematerializes a short distance away after the attacker has disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna come up in a few years.
Yeah, so you remember it because I won't.
Yeah.
Back Back at the lads, they're still arguing about when to attack, and then Leather Daddy comes up. Leather Daddy is to deal with the machine pillars, actually, while everyone else just wants to attack. Jamie wants to head back out while they're distracted and hearing more information about the things they're saying. The diamonds, what they're saying. And the doctor has come back to Vanna and so on, and they notice that they're leaving, and they're like, weird, the city's being evacuated. The doctor learns about the whole support system, and that's like, that's not good. And then, back at science, the doctor's there now suddenly, with sulfur, and tells him to do some chemistry, and then they run off to help Jamie. And then Vanna and Loverboy show up and decide to help because she's too weak to move. And back at Leader, the ceiling is fucking caving in because they're trying to pull the whole fucking thing down, and the doctor rushes in to stop it, and then gets hit with rocks and dies. That was the episode.
Moon. This episode is, as the way that this book describes it, plucked from today's headlines affairs. Basically, it's a lot of different types of commentary and a lot of different things. It basically stating that prescriptive education is shown as a form of brainwashing, operative conditioning instead of replacing curiosity, and that the quote-unquote establishment is churning out generation after generation of willing victims. In 1968, students were having sit-ins. Basically, this is a whole heap of war stuff. Post-war education was said to be about opportunity for all, but when the, quote, all got into universities hitherto restricted to the sons of the bourgeoisie, and a few daughters here and there, things were bound to get a bit fractious. As we've already intimated, the fact that the Gond students shake society to its roots by setting up an illegal lab and mixing acid seems inevitable. So when we remember that this was initially submitted in 1965 as a William Hartnell story, it seems rather remarkable. True, there were a few trippy moments in that phase of the series, a few episodes that we haven't really gotten to because they're missing. But on the other hand, education that simply pumped your head full of facts you'd never need, like the system formerly used in the secondary modern schools, was an obvious target for people who had either withstood or skipped the mainstream education system. Dickens had done it in Hard Times, Mark Twain had done it in Huckleberry Finns, obviously it was, quote, right, the Prisoner episode of The General, piloted the use of television as an educated medium. Yet this was a scheme being tested at the time. Basically they were like, hey, why don't we use television to educate people? Which is kind of what Doctor Who was meant to be in a way. Not an education show, but hey, they'll go back in history and meet people, and the kiddies will learn about this, and they'll learn about this historical figure and this historical event. Harold Wilson, Prime Minister of the late 60s, later claimed that the Open University was his greatest achievement. This seemed like the best compromise, however, education as a reward and opportunity for people who had already experienced the world. The book learning versus School of Hard Knocks debate will feature a lot more in an upcoming episode in a few years that we'll get to. That's essentially about the Doctor going to a place filled with, like, ancient university dons and, like, the difference in knowledge, etc. Yeah. It's hard not to see the debate between Alec, who is the angry one, who we don't really talk about that much, and Selris, the Gon leader, who Dear has fondly called Leather Daddy, as a reworking of the 1938 Munich crisis. One of them urging appeasement and the other taking up arms. If we do, then the analogy breaks down when Chamberlain analog Selris fails to stop the warmongers going into battle with ludicrously outgunned, then sacrifices his own life to deliver a secret weapon. Nevertheless, Elec comes close to paraphrasing Churchill. As we've suggested before, the deliberate mimicry of either side of the debate was almost unnecessary in 1968, since the very terms of the debate were so clearly demarcated as appeasement or strength or resolve. That said, it's the monsters who use the weapons that are analogous to by weapons employed by the US in Vietnam. Because they use chemical warfare. The entire planet is a wasteland by chemicals. The Krotons attack through chemicals that maim and completely kill the natives. Yeah, it's pretty fucking weird, considering the original script that was submitted was literally just like a Theseus and the Minotaur type story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's literally it, but like, because it came in at the late 60s, it's like, we're gonna chuck all this other stuff in. And then you get to the Krotons themselves. So, you kind of notice this. The Krotons have a bit of an accent. But do you know what accent they're going for?
No.
So, 1968. It was basically kind of the year that the British public decided that apartheid was a bad idea.
Uh-huh.
So, the design, basically, apartheid, for those... I'm not going to get into apartheid, actually. Basically, look it up in your own time. Not a good point in history. So basically, the Krotons were meant to be kind of an analogy, in a sense, to... Not even an analogy, more just a reference to apartheid, because the voice actors for them wanted to go for South African-type accents, to try and bring up imagery of that. Because of it, because like a South African accent kind of became shorthand for racism at the time. Not as in, well, not racism, just bigotry in general because of apartheid. That was essentially their reaction, to be like, okay, well, we'll play the Krotons like this then. It's kind of a good thing that they didn't come back, because no thank you.
No.
That's, I'm just gonna get it out there, like, trying to explain a concept like apartheid to kids in this way, like, it's not as easy as explaining fascism to kids. Like, fascism to kids with the Daleks, it's easy. It makes sense. Fascism you can boil down. You shouldn't, but you can boil it down to a good versus evil. With a concept like apartheid, it's like how you have to explain so many concepts beforehand in order to get them to understand it. That it's like, I don't really understand. On a lighter note, the entire design of this set is completely late 60s. Hexagons everywhere, sliding doors, geometric shapes, so many, like, quote-unquote late 60s futuristic designs. But yeah, that's what this episode is about. So, what happens in the final episode, dear?
Loverboy and Vanna have come down to see the learning hall and help at the cave-in, and they need to help the doctor because he might be injured. They also brought acid along with them, sulfuric
Hell
acid.
yeah. I thought you meant PCP.
And they found the doctor and they help him up before Thara gets a rock in the crotch. And yes, he gets a rock in the crotch though. They get it off though, so it's okay. They get it off of him. They get it off of him. They get the rock off of him. It's okay.
They get Thara off.
Jamie is back at the ship. Everything is really wiggly while the diamonds are doing things. And apparently down there is the Dynatrope downstairs. And they see the Doctor and the Zoe down there. And they're like, oh, we need them. And apparently it's not an earthquake, it was something else. And the machine is apparently harmed. And the acid is handed to the Doctor. And then they remember about Jamie and learn that Jamie went into the door. Jamie's so dumb, why would they want him, though? And Jamie's at the door, and the Doctor finds the Doctor's mica or something. And then the lads come down to do a fight. And there's more arguing and stuff. And blitz. And stuff and things about damaging the machine. And they throw rocks at it. If they throw rocks at it, they'll win. Because they have really lads. The lads try to arrest Leather Daddy, but he doesn't want their help at all. And suddenly, a diamond comes out the door with a gun, and the lads ask what they want, and he says, give me the smart people, where are they? Give them to me. But since they argue, some dude on the stairs gets fucking offed. So that sucks.
Oh. He gets off on the stairs?
There's too many dick jokes in this episode. If they're given
penis.
Why is that what got me? But since they argue, some dude on the stair gets killed, and if they're given the doctor, then the ship they're on, they will leave. So that's something. But if they don't, everyone's gonna die. And then Jamie gets the door open, crawls his way out, and so the lads are like, okay, let's give the doctor to them. And then suddenly the doctor and Zoe are there to pull Jamie out the door and save him from the smoky acid shit. And the doctor tells Jamie to go tell Science to make sulfuric acid in bulk and meet him in the learning hall. Meanwhile, Leather Daddy and Vanna are trying to help the doctor, and Jamie and Science are working on making more acid, potentially blowing themselves up. There's a whole moment where, like, the fire explodes everywhere and they're actually dead. It's fucking hilarious that they cut away from it. Vanna actually tries to make a run for it while Leather Daddy does a distraction, but she's caught. She also drops the acid and Leather Daddy grabs it. Then the Krotons have enough power for 30 minutes. And meanwhile, the doctor and Zoe are wanting to get in, and the lads are just fucking sacrificing them, honestly, and shoving them towards the door.
Yep.
They wanted the acid, but went inside before it got handed over. That's sad. And the Diamonds discuss killing all the Gons anyway, and the Leather Daddy fucking dives into the closing door to help them because he has the acid. But as soon as he's there and hands it over, he's killed. So that sucks. They tell the doctor to help them because if they don't, the planet's going to be destroyed probably. But how did they get there? Multiple questions. Multiple threats? Stalling for time. Because their crew was killed, they landed here, put the Dynatrope in to a stable something. I don't know, I didn't pay attention. Meanwhile, Jamie and Sirens are bringing down an entire jug of acid to the door so that they can learn that they were sacrificed and everyone feels the desire to leave except Janie and Vanna, who want to help, even though it might cave in. The doctor mentions, wow, that tank of stuff over there, that'd be really bad if someone poisoned it or dumped acid into it.
It would.
So,
it really, really would.
Yeah. So Zoe dumps the acid into it. Secretly. So they make a whole bit about how we should be standing here. No, actually here, let's delay time. Wow, how do I put on this helmet? And then the two fucking Diamond Bros are fucking killed and release all their gas into the air. And they're dissolving and turning into fumes, and the entire machine is melting. So Zoe and the doctor escape, while Jamie and them pour more acid onto the Dynatrope downstairs. And the entire machine starts to melt, and everyone's like, oh, isn't that nice? Everything's fine now. And then the doctor and them just leave, and everyone's like, woohoo, we're free! And Loverboy's gonna be leader, and then we see the TARDIS swoosh away, and that's the episode. Yes.
So, dear.
Mm-hmm.
The Krotons.
Mm-hmm.
What didst thou think of the Krotons?
I don't know, honestly I was just bored.
Well, at least you weren't insulted.
Like, it wasn't trying, so it didn't feel insulting.
I will say, there are some really neat moments in it, like when, Zoe actually gets something to do, and, they don't treat Zoe like shit in this. They actually, hey, Zoe's smart, and it's gonna be part of the plot. And, hey, she's actually, the constant jokes that she's making about, oh wow, yeah, the Doctor's almost as smart as me.
Yeah.
Jokes like that, and the Doctor kind of acknowledges that, yeah, she is really smart. And, you get the Doctor pining over his lost umbrella. Little things like here and that. But yeah, overall the story's, I'm glad it's 4 episodes long.
Yeah, no, it's very much so just, It's boring. There's little jokes in it that are fun, but I don't know, I just don't care. So.
That's fair. What would you give it out of 10?
4.
Yeah, that's wholly... I only would have been are you sure about that? If you said 1 or 2, because I'm pretty sure this is not as bad as episodes that you've rated 1 or 2. Those episodes that you rate 1 or 2, you rate because you're insulted by them. Either because they're just terrible, or like they have content in them that's just like not good.
Yeah, no, this is just very much so like,
yeah. But yeah, that's the Krotons. A fairly forgettable episode that's just it's okay.
Yeah.
But
not
it exists.
It's not okay, but it's not bad.
Well, the Krotons never come back.
Good.
On
Welcome.
the TV. They appear a few times in, like, books and audios. I think once or twice on audio dramas. But honestly, the way audio dramas handle stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually good. But yeah, anyway, next week, the Seeds of Death.
Ooh.
Lots of death there. Hope you don't like seeds that kill you. Ooh, that's right. We're going for shit. What are the B13? Is it?
What?
What's the fake vitamin? That's actually just a like vitamin B. Is it vitamin B13 or something? Or like no. It's the one that's literally just like a peach pit. Or like apple seeds, and it's like, actually, if you eat that, you're just gonna give yourself cyanide poisoning.
I don't actually know what you're talking about, so...
It's one of the fucking... someone back me up with this. Someone back me up with this. Is it vitamin B12? I think it is vitamin B12. Yeah, it is vitamin B12. I'm 99% sure. It's one of those, like, quack woo, like, all naturalist type people will be like, I ate this and it cured everything, when it's like, actually you're giving yourself cyanide poisoning. Yeah, fucking hilarious. Anyway, next week, Seeds of Death. It's got nothing to do with cyanide poisoning. Don't ask why I brought that up.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add, dear?
Nope.
Okay, see ya.